3, 2, 1, and we are back with another edition of the Go Earn It podcast. And today I have the opportunity and privilege to sit down with somebody that I think needs their story told in a different light, and I'm the guy to bring that. So without further ado, I'm sitting down today with Jason Righteous Norwood. Jason, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for coming to Waco, Texas to visit me.
Thank you for having me.
I was in Fort Worth for a middle school tournament for the Go Earn It 50.
Yep.
So I wanted to travel to meet you, and so I hit you guys up, and I hit another great supporter, Gabriel Chavez, and he's a photographer that works with Jason with photos and just following your journey in MMA. So let's start from the beginning. I want people to know the who, what, when, where, why of you. So real quick, tell people about what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Jason Righteous Norwood, as you already said. I'm a welterweight. I'm currently ranked number 4 in the Southeast, according to Tapology. I am a major active duty officer in the United States Army stationed at Fort Hood. I've wrestled. I'm a father of 2 beautiful children, a husband of a beautiful wife. I am the director of a nonprofit that helps veterans and works with the Killeen Police Department. Killeen is the town outside of Fort Hood. It works with Killeen Police Department helping veterans. I am a wrestling coach at Georgetown Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where I work with kids, and I also do a self-defense program for women there as well. Kind of multifaceted guy, but definitely my life follows 3 veins: being a father, being a fighter, and being a friend, just trying to be a good person.
Awesome.
That's my 3 F's, if you will.
Yep.
Father, fighter, friend.
Yep.
If I can pull that off, I'm good.
You nailed that right on the butt. So for starters, I want people to know how you got with Go Earn It. So talk about a little bit about how that came about, that path.
So actually, Gabe. Gabe's a good friend of mine. He's actually in my phone under paparazzi. This man takes pictures.
Great photos. Great
incredible photos. Matter of fact, he's so good that his son is so good that I took a photo of his son's in to the local paper, and they immediately gave him an internship.
Wow.
He's a gifted guy. So he told me about these guys, Go Earn It, and that they're wrestling guys. And obviously, being a wrestler, I'm like, well, yeah, I want to talk to these dudes. Of course.
Yeah.
You know? And so we had a phone call, and I went on their page. Gabe kind of, he messed me up a little bit. He said, hey, man, you got to go on their page. You got to build your thing. I'm like, build my thing? What are you talking about? I'm not a creative dude by any means, right? This is not me.
Or at least that's what you think.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's true. That's what I thought. So it says, go on their page and build something and see if you like it. And I was like, okay. So I checked out your website to make custom stuff.
Yeah.
And I was, holy fuck, that's awesome. Like, it was incredible. So I was going through, I was sitting with my first sergeant happens to run Georgetown Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a part owner of it. And so I was thinking about the kids program, and we were trying to, create stuff, and then finally I got on the phone with you guys, and we started talking, and I heard about your story, working with all these wrestlers that came out of college. You guys, all previous college wrestlers. I was like, why have we not met before?
Yeah.
And so since then, it's just been awesome. You guys have given me stuff. I worn it in fights, and the last pair of shorts you made that Go Earn It made for me, they made me tights that I wore at my weigh-ins and shorts that I wore for my fight.
Yeah.
And also the rash guard that I wore for my last jiu-jitsu tournament. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's just been it's been a great partnership.
Yeah, it's been an experience getting to know you, see you compete, and just wear our stuff. It's awesome. We appreciate that in itself. And when I think the funny part about when I heard that we were going to work with you is that for the orders you made, the sizing. Yeah. I remember the first time I spoke to you on the phone.
Yeah.
I I was like, "Are you sure you want to order mediums for your custom gear?" Because when you search Jason Norwood on the internet, he does not look like a 170 pounder. And he does not look like a guy that would wear a medium top or a medium shirt. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm not 170. So it's funny, and everybody does this. It's common practice throughout the wrestling community, grappling community, everything. So if you weigh in the day prior, the weight that you weigh in at and the weight that you compete at are very, very different. I learned this probably my first time at Nationals, watching guys that were, I wrestled at Nationals the first time at 84 kilos, so 184 pounds, and not 74 kilos, 163 pounds. I should have competed at 74 kilos. Now, I actually made it to the round before being an All-American at 84 kilos. But these guys would come in, say they weighed 84 kilos the day prior. They would easily be 90 kilos by the time we competed. I'm like, dear Lord, this is a totally different man. He's grown an extra toddler on himself by the time we compete. Just crazy. Yeah. So, I'm a welterweight, but, I fight probably at 185, 188 by the time I'm in the cage. So, it's, it's just... if you know how to do it and it doesn't affect your health or your performance, it's great for you.
Right.
It's another tool. A lot of guys say that there's two fights that happen. There's the fight at weigh-ins and then there's the fight on the day of the fight.
Right.
And so, the fight at weigh-ins is mental. It's not physical, but it's mental, and it's getting not only to weight but feeling good at that weight. And then you have the fight the very next day. So, I win both those fights. Hell yeah.
Awesome. So. As a child, when did wrestling come into play?
So I started wrestling when I was 14, and it's funny. I started wrestling because I wanted to play football. My parents didn't want me to play football because they didn't want me to get hurt, and all the injuries that are associated with football, yada yada yada.
Right. Doesn't get much better in wrestling.
Yeah. Shockingly enough, they let me wrestle. I think that's more because of a lack of understanding about the injuries that were probably going to happen to me wrestling, but. My cousin Carlos, we started talking. He wrestled in college too.
Yeah.
And I told him what I wanted to do, and he said, "Okay, I'm all for that." He bought my first pair of wrestling shoes, and he said to me, "But you're gonna fall in love with wrestling more than football."
Right.
I had no idea how correct he was, and I think that the reason for that is because wrestling is, we all live in this world where what we put into a situation is not necessarily what we get out of it.
Yep.
Wrestling was the first thing in my life that what I put into it, I got out.
Yeah, wrestling's a direct correlation.
Correlation.
The hard work you put in is the output of success you will get.
Absolutely. Every minute I spent thinking about wrestling, drilling wrestling, I saw the dividends played out in the wrestling room for practice, in my matches, in how I felt, everything. So I was like, holy crap, like this is a direct correlation, this is no-sum game kind of thing. I love this. Let me do more of it.
Yeah, and that's what people don't get is that I myself had the same story. I started my freshman year. I was playing football at the time, and I was told I had to wrestle because it would make me a better football player.
Yeah.
So sure enough, I started wrestling, and I ended up loving wrestling more than I did football, and I excelled better at wrestling.
Yep.
So, yeah, with wrestling, it's all about your hard work you put in, and it doesn't matter if you've started at 14 years old. The amount of success you have directly relates to how hard you put in the work.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I had a guy on my team he had started wrestling when he was 5, and he was incredibly good. He was gifted.
Yeah.
But he didn't like it anymore, and you could tell. And so the effort he put into it diminished. And it's crazy. As he got older, he actually started doing worse.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate. But again, like you said, it directly correlates to the amount of work you're going to put into it. And I got obsessed and I put in the work. And much to the chagrin of my parents, I got obsessed and I put in the work. And that's what happened.
So in high school, how was that experience? How'd you do? Ups and downs?
Yeah. So I never even placed in states in high school, except for freestyle. I excelled at freestyle because I'm a takedown guy.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of what helped me out in my mixed martial arts career.
What's your move?
Yeah, I can
double
control
leg.
I'm a double leg. Well, actually, now I'm more.
I feel like every wrestler I've talked to, it's such a cliche answer, but till this day, the double leg is literally the best move.
Yeah, well, it's because it's funny. I go from doubles to singles, which a lot of people don't like, but in mixed martial arts, it gives me more options, right? And I always, when I coach my kids, I'm like, hey, would you rather go to a place and order one thing off the menu, or want to go to a buffet? You have all these, wonderful options. You have 4 different kinds of ice cream,
it's true.
whatever. And that's what I like. So that's what I like about wrestling. As far as my technical background goes, I like shooting for doubles, and I'll go to singles. I can go back to a double. I can finish the single.
Yeah.
Or if I shoot to a single, I'm going to immediately go to the double to threaten the idea so that I have more options.
You got more thought process behind your setups.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So in high school, just mediocre wrestler, so to speak?
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I had...
with no disrespect, what do I mean?
Yeah. No, I did well. Like I said, I made it to Super Regions around before states my senior year, and that was it for me. I said, I wound up placing in states and then winning states in freestyle.
Okay.
New Jersey has a state freestyle tournament.
Sure.
And we call it the money tournament because if you win it, you're supposed to get money to go to nationals to represent the state of New Jersey.
And in your high school career, where were you at?
I was in South Jersey. Yeah, I was in Morristown, New Jersey. It's a suburb actually of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
So it's funny. My father's a minister. That's my middle name. And my fight moniker of Righteous. His church is in Trenton, New Jersey. And so I led a rather dichotomous lifestyle in that aspect too, because Morristown is a very well-to-do suburb, and Trenton, New Jersey is definitely an inner city.
Right.
So I had 2 different aspects of my life going on because I spent a lot of time at the church with my father, and then being in the suburb, and it was just a very interesting lifestyle.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Mako back in August. Steve Mako. He's another Jersey guy too.
Yeah.
So
so is Jordan Burroughs.
Yeah.
Who I actually wrestled with when he was in high school.
Right.
He was a senior high school or junior high school my freshman year of college, and I wrestled him when I was a senior high school, and he was in 8th grade, I think.
Wow.
So yeah, and back then his brother was actually better than he was.
Really?
Yeah, his brother was better than I don't know. His brother's name was Jamil. He went to Nebraska as well, and I don't know what happened to him. But yeah, his brother was the prospect, not him. Jordan was not the prospect. But yeah, we shared a coach and everything. It was kind of crazy. Yeah.
So fast forward now into your college years. What was the transition after high school?
It was crazy because I went to West Point, and that's no joke kind of a school. So,
And what do you mean by that? Like, to listeners, that like obviously West Point, you hear about it, but like, what do you mean by that?
So, wrestling at West Point. So the most college athletes have a few things going for them, in as much as while they have classes that they're going to, they have the ability to kind of pick and choose based upon, to a certain extent at least, you got to pass, you got to graduate, but you get to pick and choose to a certain extent, when you take classes, and if you're, if I'm cutting weight and I'm dropping 10 pounds, maybe I need to miss a class,
right,
so that I can, survive this weight cut for nationals or whatever the case may be. West Point does not give a darn that you're wrestling. They don't care at all.
Right.
You have to play a sport. If you're not doing the intercollegiate one, you do an intramural one. But and let me tell you the truth, it was hard to get on the intercollegiate wrestling team. But they don't care. You're there to become an officer of the United States Army, and so your academic and military performance is what they're focused on. So the result is that I'm doing workouts before breakfast formation. I'm doing workouts at 6 a.m. with the team. And then I'm, scurrying off at lunch to do a workout, and then I have to change, get back into a uniform, and get to my class. And you can't be late. If you're late to a class, you're in all types of trouble.
Right.
It was different. It was different, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. In as much as it was very, very, it was very molding. It helped create the person that I am today. Who's willing to make sacrifices to do the things they need to do to get what I want.
So what led you to West Point? What was the thought process behind choosing? Oh, you're good.
My nose real quick. Yeah. My thought process in going to West Point was actually kind of
like what was
one-dimensional.
what was the influence behind it?
My parents weren't paying for me to go to college.
So there you go. That was pretty clear cut.
Yeah, I wanted and don't get me wrong, I had college graduates in my family, and I wasn't blind. I saw how a lot of them went to college, did well in school, got degrees, and then had a hard time getting a job in the field of their degree, right? And
Which is every college kid right now.
Yeah, it's pretty much every college kid, especially now.
I'm fortunate enough to do what I'm doing right now, but most college kids, they get out with whatever degree they're in.
Yeah.
And they're working some job that makes no sense to their degree.
God forbid you get your MBA, because there's a billion of those out there. But anyway, long story short, my father was a chaplain in the military. So I had been, and he was a reservist, but I had been, adjacent to the military my entire life. My uncle was active duty. He spent 30 years in the Army. My cousin enlisted. There was a lot of military around me, and I thought that I would like it, and I did. I was right. But so I knew that the military was definitely an occupation that I could see myself doing. As far as West Point goes, and I knew I had to go to college. My father was always saying to me, "There's 3 things you need to understand, Jason. Number 1, you're going to college. Number 2, you're getting out of my house. And number 3, I'm not paying for any of it." And so he had me memorize that when I was 8.
Wow.
So by the time I was 18, I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And so West Point filled that void. He didn't have to pay a dime. I was going to go to college, and I got out of his house. Problem solved.
There you go. So once West Point was over, what was the next move?
So next move for me, okay, so this is where things get interesting. So I went to the All-Army Wrestling program, and I wrestled at Fort Carson and at the Olympic Training Center with top athletes. This is 2006 when I graduated from West Point.
And what kind of athletes we talking about?
We're talking about, the guys who are on the Olympic team. Now, Jordy, who's on the Olympic team now, Kyle Dake, all those guys, they weren't there yet.
Yeah. They're too young.
They were too young. Yeah, they were still in college. But the athletes there at the time, oh dear Lord, all I can remember are the guys on the rest of the All-Army team. But so Rasheed Blackman was up there. Dear Lord, I'm thinking about Phil and those guys and
studs.
Toth. But yeah. Long story short, all studs.
Yeah.
All international ranked guys.
Yeah.
Right? All internationally ranked guys. But in any case, so I was there for a little while, and then they told me, "Hey, you're going to have to deploy. You got to leave." So I'm like, oh, crap. So it was really crappy because I had just found a girl that I was eventually going to get engaged to, who I was trying to have find me a place up there because I was trying to stay up there and everything like that. And so I wound up going from Fort Carson, Colorado, down back to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So I still wanted to compete too when I got back to Fort Sill. And here's where, like I said, things get funny. I mentioned a guy named Jordan Burroughs. Everybody in the wrestling community knows who Jordan is, right?
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, if you don't, look him up.
Yeah.
You should. So Jordan and I shared a coach, a guy by the name of Johnny Johnson. Johnny Johnson runs a wrestling club in New Jersey called Raw 2 for 1. I just gave him some publicity, and I'm not sure I should, because the reason that I took my first fight, and it was a professional fight, is because I was broke. I had no money in my account, and the reason for that was my fiance at the time took every dime I had and was cheating on me with Johnny Johnson, who is how I met Jordan Burroughs. And so I had made some headway back by the time I actually got done All-Army Wrestling and was able to take my first professional fight. But I was still kind of in the hurt box because while I was at Officer Basic course, I thought my now ex-fiance was paying my bills when in fact she was paying herself.
Doing the complete opposite.
Yeah, doing the complete opposite. So yeah, I had a loan payment that was late. I had a truck payment that was late. I hadn't paid my rent. So I was in the field the whole time, the majority of the time, and so yeah, all this stuff I thought you were taking care of. No.
So coming back was just like a whole rude awakening.
Yeah, it was.
And so how did you handle all that when you got back?
As best I could. It's kind of hard being especially a lieutenant. You're supposed to be a leader in the Army, and having your cell phone shut off,
right?
Because you can't pay the bill.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good. So
no.
I scripted and I saved and I made stuff work. I remember vividly going into this one Chinese buffet, and it was you could take stuff to go, and I remember filling up the little to-go thing, and then I poured the rice on top to fill the crevices.
Jeez.
Because that was $5 and like
Gotta make do what you got.
Yeah. That was gonna be food for the next 3 days till I got paid again.
Wow.
Because I was embarrassed, you know.
Yeah.
And truthfully, now the rank that I have in the Army, there was things out there in the Army to help me, but I was too embarrassed to go get them because I put myself in this position.
You had too much pride.
I did. I had way too much pride, and I felt dumb. I also felt dumb because, of course, people had warned me about this girl, and I had dated her for 6 years. You know.
Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. So I'm an idiot. Whatever. So yeah, it was what it was. Wouldn't trade that experience for the world because it helped to make me who I am.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason I took my first fight, and now I love fighting. So, you know, what happened was I did, as soon as I got back from Army Wrestling, I did this Combatives tournament, which is the Army's version of hand-to-hand combat. It's called Combatives.
And it's not exactly, going into more detail about that. It's not actual fighting.
It is.
It
Actually,
is.
The end of Combatives, the back then it had 4 levels. The 4th level of Combatives was basically mixed martial arts training.
Okay.
And we did Combatives tournaments, and we actually fought in a cage but we looked at it differently. Instead of it being like a mixed martial arts contest, we look at the cage as kind of like our laboratory. It's where we build all of our techniques. And everything, so that when your primary weapon system misfires, you know, your M4, you can't engage with your M4, or maybe you're not even allowed to. Maybe you got to take this guy in alive.
Yeah.
And he's putting up a fight. What the devil do you do, right? Well, you do this, right?
Yeah.
You do stuff that looks a lot like mixed martial arts, right?
Right.
And so that's what we did. So I competed in a Combatives tournament. I won it, and a buddy of mine said, "Hey, you know they'll pay you $500 to fight in a cage in Oklahoma City at the fairgrounds."
And
I was like,
$500
$500? Yeah. When? And they're like, yeah, they have them every weekend. And I was like, for real? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get this on because I need money. I got to eat. You know, so that's what I did. And I started looking around to get a professional fight. And so I have no amateur fights on my record.
I know, I saw.
Yeah. So being 18-4 and having no amateur fights, I think it's not bad.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. So
especially where you're fighting. You know, you're fighting in some of the best. The MMA environment.
Yeah.
You know?
They're not. I'm not fighting. Bums.
Some of the most rural areas. Breed some of the toughest fighters. You know, like Albuquerque, New Mexico, Jackson's over there.
Absolutely.
Over here in Texas, there's spots in all these rural areas that create monsters.
They do because there's nothing else.
Yeah, they have nothing else to do here.
You know what I mean? When you have nothing else to do but fight, guess what? You get real good at fighting.
Yeah.
You know.
I actually just met yesterday at the middle school tournament I was at. There was an actual Bellator fighter. She was I forgot her name already, but she was telling me that Texas, there's some great gyms that are very under the radar because they don't get the publicity like a Jackson Winks or Longo's gym on the East Coast. A lot of good Texas MMA.
It's incredible, you know. I train in a couple places. Like I have a coach. So I was on the Bellator show, the reality TV show Fight Master, and I got some experience with Greg Jackson a little bit, and some of the the top name coaches, if you will.
Yeah.
In mixed martial arts, and I'll be honest with you, the coaches that I train with now, there's a place called Integrating Fighting Arts in Austin. I train at John's Gym, and I help coach in John's Gym in Georgetown, and then I get coached at a place called Terra Leone, and I have a coach named Jason Schaefer and Frank Ben. Frank Ben runs the IFA in Austin, and Jason Schaefer is one of my personal coaches. Those guys technically are, if not better, just as good as, your Ray Longos and your Jackson Winks and stuff like that. They, those guys have dedicated their life to the art of fighting.
Right.
In a multifaceted dimensions, so much. You want to talk to them about grappling? Yeah, they'll talk to you about grappling. You want to talk to them about striking? They'll talk to you about striking. You want to talk to them about the idiosyncrasies between kickboxing and Muay Thai?
Jeez.
They'll have dissertations on that. Yeah, on that. And that's something you just don't have everywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? but they have it, and so I'm blessed. I'm most certainly blessed to be not only where I'm at for my fighting career, but also to be around such great men. I talk about Jason Schaefer. He's a Killeen police officer on top of being my fight coach. You know what I mean? Frank Ben is a professor at UT. He's these guys are incredible fighters and geniuses.
And that's another thing that I appreciate about MMA is that a lot of the fighters and coaches, this is their passion. They're doing it just because they love it. They have other jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
They do other things.
Yeah.
To make means of their their families, support everything. So when they put their effort in the sport, that's it. Like it's all out or nothing. And most especially with fighters like yourself, this sport, it's not long lasting.
No.
And you gotta get what you can get.
Absolutely. And you're right. To pay the bills, you have to have another job. I'm an active duty Army officer, and I'm blessed to be able to do that.
I mean, even the UFC heavyweight champ right now, he's still a firefighter. Stipe Miocic.
Yeah, Stipe Miocic. Yeah, he's still a firefighter, and to a certain extent, I heard it's funny. The bad boy, I forget his name. He fought Anderson Silva. Hashtag I fight every day. Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen. He said that you practice for 6 hours a day. There's 24 hours in a day. So if all you're doing is working out, you're missing a lot of work during the day.
Yeah.
And so he's right to a certain, he's right to a certain extent. If I'm practicing for 5 hours a day, I got an hour, in the morning, an hour at lunch, 2.5 hours at night. Well, I'm missing a whole lot of other stuff that I could be doing. So it is cool, and that's how my workouts.
And that 5 hours in itself, that's not even enough to cover,
Okay.
If you can just say, "Oh, I'm gonna wake up, train, and then go to bed," like that would be a fighter's dream. But that's not the reality.
It would be, and it's not the reality. You're right. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of college wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, college athletes, they're also in college.
Yeah.
So
big time.
Yeah. So granted, they're athletes at the pinnacle, at the prime of their physical capabilities, but they're also students.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm an athlete at the pinnacle of my capability, but I'm also an officer.
Yeah, and most wrestling in college should be taken very seriously to the point where it's not just a 3-4 month sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a year-round thing.
It is. Every college wrestler I know who wants to do anything, he does it all year.
That has aspirations to be great.
Yeah.
There's no time off.
There's no time
There's
off.
no spring break.
Yes.
I mean, you can do it, but to be the greatest, that's not happening.
Yeah, it absolutely. Especially too when the sport's over Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I remember my freshman year of high school, I wrestled into the new year because we have a New Year's Eve tournament.
Yeah.
And it went too long.
Wow.
And so we wrestled into
You literally wrestled into the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's and guess what? I wouldn't trade that for the world either. One of the best New Year's of my life.
So, your first fight in MMA, how did that go?
I lost it. I lost to a guy named Leo Pla.
And that's actually more common than people don't understand. Like, obviously, if you're talented, you would want to win that first one, but a lot of guys don't. I believe like a guy like Jose Aldo, he lost his very first MMA fight.
Absolutely. So, but there was a lot of reasons that I lost that fight. So man, I have so many funny stories. It's just hilarious. But anyway,
keep going. I'm here.
Yeah. So this is what happens, right? I told you that I never had a amateur fight.
Right.
So when I jump into the professional fight game, I am wet behind the ears. I'm the greenest. I'm the guy you want to take advantage of, right?
Yeah.
And guess what happens? I get taken advantage of. So I get told that this guy, Leo Pla, is an American Jiu-Jitsu coach. Now, at the time, I had no idea what Jiu-Jitsu really entailed in totality. So for you to say that I'm an American Jiu-Jitsu coach, sure, I guess that exists. I had no idea. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do, I'd done, martial arts. I'd done Jiu-Jitsu and Taekwondo when I was a kid before I started wrestling. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stand up with him. I'll use my wrestling to stop him from going to the ground.
Right.
Defensively. And then I'll try and kick and punch him. This guy was a freaking kickboxing instructor. Had no fucking clue. So, so I'm in a fight and I'm sticking to the game plan. You know what I mean? And I'm getting tagged up. It's just the way it works. I was getting tagged up, right? So finally, in the last round, I take this dude down, and I broke his nose.
Oh, man.
In his guard.
How so?
I punched him in. He was taller than me, too. Right? I fight 185. I'm 5'9" and a half. This guy's taller than me, too, so he's got more range and everything. I'm like, ah. So finally, in his guard, I could do some damage, but it was too late. That was it. And fight was over. I lost the decision. And so I go home with this giant welt on my leg because he kicked my front leg like it was going out of style. They paid me $300 for the fight, but by the time I got done all my commission fees and everything like that, I'll never forget, I made $37.50. That was all the licensing fees I had to pay
after your first fight.
Corners. That's how much I got paid after my first fight. $37.50. I'll never forget that. As long as I live.
Yes.
It was supposed to be $300 to show, $300 to win, and I walked out. My $300 to show turned into $37.50.
How does that work? They give
time,
you a.
So, have you ever seen the first Rocky?
Yeah.
Okay, the first Rocky, the first scene, he's fighting in like a garage somewhere, and the guy at the end of the day, he's like, "All right, we charge you 50 cents locker and towel fee and 30 cents licensing fee," and it works out. He gets like $12 at the end. That's exactly what it was. It was that all over again. I went in there. He hashed out $300 in a pile, and then he started taking shit back. Licensing fee.
Oh my
Second
God.
licensing fee. Blood test. I'm like, I already had a blood test done by the Army. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But no, all this stuff, and then it was like $37.50. Slid it over to me, and I said, okay. Walked out the door. That was my first purse.
How pissed?
I was furious. My promoter had lied to me. He told me this guy was a jiu-jitsu guy when he was a kickboxing guy. So I had been duped. Then I had been robbed. I was heated. So I took my second fight almost as redemption for the first one.
Right.
And I redoubled my efforts of training. And I'm like, F this. I was mad. And I won. And I fell in love with it. I had the same, butterflies in my stomach you have before a wrestling match.
Yeah.
I got that all over again.
Yeah, that was my next question is, how is that feeling stepping in the cage, knowing that a man in front of you is trying to basically put you out?
So it's interesting for me because I'm also in the military. So I've been in a country that wanted me dead.
Right.
The whole country's like, yeah, we don't want you here.
Yeah.
Can you please die?
Mixed that with guns too.
And they had guns. So at least I know at the end of this, I'm not coming home in a body bag.
Right.
That changes the game a little bit. It's funny too because I talk to the guys who I'm in the Army with, and they're like, no way in hell I'm ever going to fight. And then when I was on the reality show with the fighters, they're like, no way in hell I'm ever going to be in the Army. I'm like, you do realize that this is hilarious to me, doing both and seeing it from both perspectives.
Right.
But I definitely think being a soldier is tougher, in as much as
you go through more.
you do, and then at the end of the day, the end state of my profession as a man of arms is the possibility of death. I mean, Plato said the only people who have seen the end of war are the dead.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah, that's nothing but the truth.
That's the truth. So, I'm not going to die. Am I going to get embarrassed? Yes. Am I going to get hurt? Yeah, that's a possibility too, but I'm not going to die. And so that's a totally different, that's how I look at it,
Yeah.
It's good.
So with the next couple of fights stringing along, you get a couple wins under your belt. What was the turning point where you're like, all right, this is actually starting to turn into something bigger than what I thought?
So when I won the belt, for the first belt I ever won, professional belt, was in an organization called FCF, Freestyle Cage Fighting.
Yeah,
I'll never forget them. They did a lot for me. They actually had stopped fighting, and now they're starting back fighting again in Oklahoma. Great organization, loved them.
And they're based out of Oklahoma, right?
Yep.
It's like that was like Oklahoma's premier fighting organization, right?
It sure was. And so that was my first ever belt. And when I won that belt, I was like, you know what? This is it. this is I've been in so many fights that I wasn't supposed to win.
Right.
And so I kind of like that. I like that feeling of being the underdog and knowing something that they don't know. You know, like, yeah, you think you're going to beat me, but this is actually how I'm going to beat you.
Right, yeah.
And so, you know, I did that and I fell in love. And the truth of the matter is, just like wrestling, fighting's just like wrestling. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Yeah.
And I've never not loved that.
Right.
You know, I love the idea of something that I'm doing has a direct correlation. I can affect it.
Yeah.
You know, especially, you know, what I do now in the Army, I work in resiliency, and I'm basically a social worker. I try and help people that are having problems. And so often I see soldiers and their families that are running into issues that I can't fix. I want to fix them. God knows I want to fix them.
Yeah, but you can't.
And it eats me up inside, but I can't fix them. You know what I mean?
It's their problems.
It is. And you know, whether it's we don't have the resources to fix the problem, or their problem is so multifaceted, I can't get them to everything to help work it out.
Right.
Fighting's not like that. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I took that punch. That was my fault. That was my fault. I got hit in the face. That was my fault. Now I need to do something different to make it so that doesn't happen again.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got taken down. That was my fault. I got submitted. That was my fault. Similarly, I punched you in the face. Yeah, I did that. I took you down. Yeah, I did that.
Right.
I submitted you. That was me. I knocked you unconscious. Yep, that was me.
Your hand gets raised. That was me.
That was me.
Yeah.
That was me. That wasn't you. That was me. So
with the transition from wrestling to MMA, what did you find the most difficult to practice as far as a technique or a discipline goes? Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai?
The wrestling obviously transfers over to jiu-jitsu because of body positioning and body control. Actually,
obviously,
wrestlers, I would take a guy who wrestled his entire life and in 6 months at least make him serviceable in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's not the reverse.
Right.
I can't take a guy who's been doing jiu-jitsu for his entire life and make him good at wrestling in 6 months.
No, not at all. Because their mindset, and I wouldn't say wrestling's like checkers and jiu-jitsu's chess, but that's basically like
no, that's actually
because
a pretty good correlation.
Wrestling's just in itself very complex as well.
Yes,
but just the I would just say the mindset behind jiu-jitsu versus wrestling, it's two different things.
It is. So wrestling and jiu-jitsu are both infinite, right? Meaning that you could make variations upon variations upon variations and make everything overwhelmingly complicated. The difference between wrestling and jiu-jitsu is this. Jiu-jitsu's mindset is, if you do this, then I do this, right? It's based off an if-then principle. And so I set this elaborate trap to submit you in jiu-jitsu, right?
Right.
Wrestling is, I don't give a shit what you did. This is what I'm doing to you. Don't like it, I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm going to do it more.
Try and stop me, I'm going to do it harder. Try and stop that, I'm going to force through it, and
Jordan
I'm going to break your
double.
bones in the process. Yeah, it's an entirely different mindset of, yeah, you were going to stop it, and then I said, F you, this is how it's going down.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know.
So what was it then for you?
So it was definitely boxing, right? Boxing is
that's very common because I've followed MMA for a long time now, and I'm no expert or anything, but I love it and I love watching it. And a lot of coaches, MMA coaches in interviews would say, you know, when a wrestler is transitioning into MMA, one of the hardest things they have to get used to is their boxing.
Yes.
Because of the stance and the movement.
Yeah, see, and I had one thing that made it a little bit better is when I was doing martial arts, I did martial arts before I wrestled, and I did martial arts as a southpaw.
Oh, okay.
I'm a right-handed southpaw, so my wrestling stance, my right foot is forward, my boxing stance, my right foot is forward.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have to change that.
That's good.
And so that made life a lot easier for me.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, when you go back to strict boxing, it's, well, your dominant hand's in the rear.
Yeah.
So if your dominant hand and your dominant foot are on the same side, then that's a problem because you wrestled with the other foot forward. So now you're switching your stance altogether. Right. Now, do I box as an orthodox guy? Absolutely. I box orthodox all the time. Mm-hmm. But that's because of the fact that I love to box.
Sure.
You know, now I love boxing. Boxing, same thing as wrestling.
Yeah.
Exact same thing you get out, right? Yeah. So I box orthodox now. But when I first started off as a southpaw. I'd done martial arts as a southpaw, so it worked. It worked for me. It was to that end, it was a lot easier.
Now, did you sway away from wrestling when you started training MMA just because you knew you had that down? So I'm going to start focusing on all the other aspects.
Yes and no. So mixed martial arts is some of its parts, right?
Right.
So it's while I do plenty of practices where I just box, I just kickbox, I just do jiu-jitsu, right? It would be idiotic of me to say I'm not Josh Koscheck. I'm not. Oh well, I'm a great wrestler, so I'm never going to wrestle again.
Right.
Absolutely not. If there is ever, so I never go a day without throwing a punch, right? And I never go 2 days without taking a shot.
I like that.
That's my rule. I never go a day without throwing a punch. Yeah, I never go a day without throwing a punch. Why? Because I actually talked to a girl who was golfing in college, and she said that every day she would play 9 holes. I'm like, dear God.
Yeah.
That's awful. She said, you can lose your swing in a day.
Yeah. I mean, look at, wrestling and basketball, they don't go at all together.
No.
We love trashing on basketball, but Steph Curry.
Yep.
You gonna tell me he doesn't shoot every day?
Yep, absolutely not.
Like,
absolutely not.
And
drillers make killers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm a firm believer in that.
When I talked to Mako and I asked him, what advice do you give these younger kids? He's like, drill.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
It. Drill.
Drillers make killers, man.
That's it. You don't have to learn 70 moves. You got to learn one move and drill the hell out of it.
So I fear the man. I do not fear the man with 1,000 kicks. I fear the man
Bruce Lee.
who's done one kick 1,000 times.
Yep.
Absolutely. And that's the truth, right? And so you best believe every punch I've thrown it 1,000 times. I've probably thrown it about 50,000 times.
So have you thrown a punch today? Am I the first person?
Actually, I did throw a punch today. I wake up in the morning, I kind of stand there and shadow box a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just something I've started to do. But actually, as soon as we're done this, I got to get on the road and do a workout. So I will throw more punches before the day is out. I promise you.
So with fighting, and I know your coaches have a game plan, and you have a game plan yourself. Do you always come into a fight thinking, I'm going to dictate the fight using my wrestling? Like, do you ever think about wrestling first in a fight?
Sometimes some fights lean themselves towards
because I know the opponent. You got to consider the opponent. If he's a heavy jiu-jitsu guy or Muay Thai. Or,
Yeah, and so mind you,
because I know you see a lot of MMA fighters. They live and die by wrestling. If they're primarily a wrestling background.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's not what I do. And I said all this stuff I said about my coaches to say that I trust them. Right. So if they tell me this is what needs to happen for a fight, then damn it, that's what needs to happen for a fight, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
And so I trust them implicitly, and to every aspect. So if they tell me that's what I'm gonna do, that's what I'm gonna do. And it really depends upon the fighter. It depends upon not just the fighter, but what are they expecting to see. For a long time, when you Googled my name and you saw fights, the only fights you would see are my losses.
Yeah.
And that was intentional. I want you to see the guy I'll never be again. Right? Because the guy that lost, I'll never be that guy again. I promise you.
Right.
So, Google me. Study that fight. Yeah. Learn everything you possibly can. Because that's not the guy you're going to see in the cage against you.
Mm. So, a couple more questions. I know we're running short on time, but with the last couple of fights, you've racked up a couple wins.
Yep.
What's the next route? When's the next fight?
So I have the possibility of 2 fights right now, both on the 16th of February. And so we're going to do those fights, and then we're going to see, who's being nicer. Is it the UFC or Bellator? Really, you know what I mean?
As of lately, I'm going to be real, Bellator's making some noise.
They have, and I've fought in Bellator before. Obviously, I was on the show.
And especially for the wrestling community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aaron Pico.
Yep.
Ed Ruth.
Yep.
Bubba Jenkins.
All of them.
They're all on the up and coming.
It's funny. Me and Bubba fought in FCF together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, me and Bubba fought in FCF together. Yeah. So Bubba's a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
What do you prefer? Obviously, UFC has a better name, bigger spotlight, but as far as your preference,
here's what I prefer, and I say this to everybody. I am a father of 2 beautiful daughters, right? I love those kids to their core, and I would die tomorrow if I thought that it could make 1 iota of their life better, without a question. My kids cannot eat belts. They can't eat accolades. They can't eat TV interviews. They
podcasts.
Yeah. But see, you gave me shirts for them. So
there you go.
That's what it costs. It costs money to clothe and feed my children. So at the end of the day, as much as this sounds cliche, I am a prize fighter. I fight for prizes. Give me a big prize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I hope to see you in either or, but like you said, where the money's at, I would believe Bellator.
Yeah,
you know?
probably.
I mean, because
We'll
it's and I'm not trash on UFC, but with UFC, it's crazy how much these guys are. I mean, and that's in all MMA, but you know, you're giving your life for this sport, and when you're getting paid, you know,
trinkets. Yeah,
4-4, 8-8, 10-10. While meanwhile, Conor McGregor's fighting Floyd for $100 zillion.
Yeah. It is messed up, but part of it is our fault as fighters, right? There are 1,000 organizations, different organizations from regional to multi-state to international. 1,000 different organizations to fight it. There are 100,000 fighters.
Yeah.
So promoters rightly say, okay, well, if you won't do it, I'll find somebody who will. And
All
they're right.
Next.
They're right. You know what I mean? If I don't take that fight, somebody else is gonna.
Right.
So sometimes I have to come hat in hand and say, hey, can I please? And hope that they're gonna be nice.
I think soon enough that time will come for you.
I hope so too.
Just got to do the right things.
I hope so too. And I try to, I try to. I do stuff for the veterans community. I do stuff for other organizations in the hope that my fighting will help get publicity to help out these people.
Right.
And so hopefully not just for me, but for them, we'll make something big happen.
So February's the fight.
Yep.
How's training been so far? Are you already? So how does it work for you? Do you put yourself in a fight camp, or because obviously you're training all the time?
Yes.
But,
so I do put myself in a fight camp, and yes, I am currently training.
Okay.
I honestly don't think my mental stability can handle me taking a day off of training. I don't know what the hell I would do. I know my wife would probably kill me.
Yeah.
If I try to do that.
Right.
So yeah, I'm always training, but we are getting more fight specific as we get closer.
Sure.
But to a certain extent, that's kind of in the hands of my coaches.
Right.
There's some things that I do differently that I don't like. I don't want to inherently disclose, but there's some things that they know and we look at that are different for every fighter.
Sure.
And there's some things that are the same because I'm the same athlete.
Yeah.
So there's an aspect, and every coach worth anything would say this. There's some things you do just to make your athlete better, and there's some things you do to prepare him for the fight. And so we're doing both right now.
Right.
We're primarily focused on me getting better at the moment because of the distance we have from February. And as we get closer to February, it'll be more about me getting more specific to this guy.
All right. So in my mind, I got 4 questions, and after those 4, we're out of here.
Okay.
First question, it's kind of a 2-parter. Whether it's now or back when you were younger, could you name one wrestler that you looked up to?
Yeah. I mean, so I had a wrestler in my family. Like I said, my cousin Chuck Carlos, he was the guy I looked up to that I saw every day. But the wrestler that I knew and I loved was a guy named Bill Zadek. He wrestled on Iowa's team.
Yeah.
And
we just hooked up Mike Zadek with
You're kidding me.
No.
You son of a gun.
We were in a event called Agony and Aims. One of the biggest, kind of like high school duels.
Yeah.
Premier, event, and we sponsored it. And Mike Zadek was there with some of the Iowa State guys and came up, gave him a hoodie. What a great guy. Yeah. Mighty beard. Very mighty beard, but it's cool, to see guys like that. And then the second part of that question, who is one MMA fighter you look up to or have looked up to in the past or now even?
MMA fighter that I look
and I know because you're a fighter yourself, it's a little different to see it in that way, but obviously everybody has their
So it's funny because I look at MMA as some of his parts, and so I have different fighters that I like for different reasons.
All right, give me 2 or 3.
So so I love Fedor for his calm, cool, and collectedness.
Wow.
Right, I love, and it comes from. He says it comes from his religious background. He believes that everything's predestined.
Right.
And I don't necessarily agree with that, but the way that he has an outlook,
his demeanor
is just, it's incredible.
And he's the total example of a dad bod.
Oh yeah.
And you see him in the bar, and you're like, oh, I could take this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile, he'll destroy everybody.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, in his prime, I love Vanderlei Silva, the way that he swarmed. He was everything that he did with the intent to hurt, right?
Yeah.
To the same end, I love, and I think everybody loves Mike Tyson because of his, you know, everything he did with the intent to hurt. I want to say that I was on the Vasily Lomachenko train before everybody else was.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
No Moschenko, man.
Yeah. Oh God, that fight.
That fight was crazy.
But
are you a big boxing fan as well?
Oh my God, I'm a big boxing fan.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, real quick then. 5 questions.
Okay.
What did you think of the McGregor-Mayweather fight? Did you see it? did you see it at? I mean, and I know myself. I know it's just all a show. But for people, they took it very serious, you know. For the drinking in the crowd fans, they saw it for like, oh, this is the craziest, biggest, most important fight. As for yourself, did you think McGregor had any shot?
No. I used to pick at my coach because he's a boxing guy. I used to pick at my coach and act like I did, but no, McGregor had no chance. Now how he did it and what he did is a little different than what I thought it was going to be, but He never had a chance. He never had any opportunity of winning that ever. He made it though, and he forced he forced Mayweather to fight a different kind of fight, I guess. Yeah.
It wasn't really competitive though.
It really wasn't.
I mean, Conor, for the training Conor did against the greatest defensive boxer of all time, it's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
You know, you gotta give him credit for what he did, but I mean.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I wasn't surprised at that outcome in the slightest. If anything, I was surprised he made it as long as he did because the conditioning for boxing is totally different than the conditioning for MMA.
Are you a fan of any the heavyweights nowadays? Deontay Wilder.
So if you're not a fan of Anthony Joshua, you've been.
That's what I was about to say. Who do you got in that fight? Joshua for sure.
Joshua over Wilder.
Yeah,
Joshua over Wilder.
All right.
Only because one of my training partners, he's actually a boxer and a heavyweight. He likes to make fun of the crazy crap Wilder does and how Wilder's legs never seem to be underneath him. Look, if Wilder gets
the last fight he had, to me, I know he's a professional, but the way he just throws those punches,
it's crazy.
I don't know how.
Now, I'm not trying to Deontay Wilder. If you get a hold of this podcast, man, I'm not trying to fucking box you. All right, I'm a mixed martial artist. Let's go. Let's add some takedowns to some shit, and I'll go. No, I'm joking.
That's the funny thing with Floyd is that I hate the debate about who's a better fighter. Because I myself define fighter as all disciplines. So if Mayweather stepped into the octagon, he has about 10 seconds of life.
10?
Yeah.
I'd give him 8. Like, it's not even, it's not
close. There's no competition.
There's no competition. Absolutely. No. And the thing is, he wouldn't have to go against Conor McGregor.
No.
You know what I mean?
He can go against Joe Schmo from XFCF2.
Absolutely. I got dudes
Idaho.
Dudes who have amateur records of 0-2
that would mop him.
in a great fight. Yeah, so no, that's no, there is no question. You're absolutely correct. But yeah, so anyway, back to my favorites. I love those guys.
Yeah.
I came up watching those guys, and now I will say this: I hated Anderson Silva because I started off fighting at 185, and I wanted to beat Anderson Silva's ass because he's 185 pound champ for so long. But at the same time, you have to respect what he did at that weight. Simultaneously, I respect the athleticism of Georges St. Pierre and his ability to be a true mixed martial artist. Right?
Yeah.
His ability to mix everything so well. Just the same as you would have to, you'd have to appreciate, Thomas Hearns' is right hand and
How about John Jones?
I have some issue with John as a person. I
so does a lot of people do.
I just do, and you have to remember when I'm fighting in part to raise awareness about some things that are outside of the cage. So I have a hard time saying, okay, well, John, which he is one of the most creative fighters in the cage, and I like him because of what he does in the cage, but I hate him for what he does outside of the cage. Because my life, everything that I do in the cage, I'm trying to bring awareness to what I'm doing outside of the cage. So I can't say that I'm a John Jones fan for that reason. I just can't. God, I wish he would get his fucking shit together.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, but I really wish he would get his head out of his ass.
All right, we'll move on to the next question.
Yes.
What's the goal, the end goal for your MMA career? I mean, you're 33 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you got to look at it. You're a smart guy. You know that.
Yeah. I don't have a ton of years
left.
Yeah,
you got a couple more years left.
Yeah, that's it. I got a couple more years. So here's what happened. The other day I saw a video of Diego Sanchez, and he was fighting a guy who has Down syndrome.
Yeah, that was incredible.
It was. And so I want to make money. I want to be able to help my coaches. I want to bring awareness to the things that I'm trying to bring awareness to, the veterans organization that I run. I want to do all that wonderful stuff. But I want to be famous enough that I can do that for a kid.
That's awesome.
I want to be famous enough that some kid says, I want to fight Jason Norwood, some kid who otherwise wouldn't be able to fight.
Yeah.
And I can fight him, and I can make his day, and I can maybe make his year.
Yeah.
That's the level of fame I want to achieve, right? Besides that, I don't care about fame. Fame for me is not important. Fame for my organization is important. No one left behind for the service we're doing for veterans. Fame for self-defense for women, that's important to me. You know, money that I need to take care of my kids, to give my kids the best future I can possibly do, that's important to me. But fame for myself is not important to me, except for that.
Right.
That's what I want to be able to do.
Last 2 questions. What do you think without wrestling you'd be where you're at now?
Absolutely not. Without wrestling, I would not be half of the man that I am today. I owe wrestling just as much as I owe my parents in making me who I am today. It taught me it taught me hands-on what hard work is,
Yeah.
where my limits are, and what hard work can get you.
And my last question, and I always like to sign off and ask everybody that I talk to in an interview, is when somebody says you got to go earn it, what does go earn it mean to you?
So what I say this to my kids that I coach all the time. I have never won anything. I've never won a thing in my life. I've earned some stuff,
Right.
but I've never won anything in my life. Everything that has been given to me, 2 things. I've never gotten it on my own. Someone's helped me somewhere. Sure. And I've earned it. I put in work to get it. And I wouldn't have it any other way. That's just life. I don't want a handout. I oftentimes need a handout. Oftentimes need a handout. But I don't want a handout. I'm going to do the work.
Sure.
I promise you I'll do the work. And I'll earn it. And I'll make you proud. And I don't know who you is. And I don't know what it is that I'm going to do. But I will make you proud. I will earn what I get.
Awesome. Well, Jason,
thank you, brother.
Thank you for your time.
Awesome.
Where can we find you? Tell people,
absolutely.
Plug your gyms, plug your sponsors, everybody.
Yeah. So
this is your time to shine. Your 5 minutes of fame.
You know what my sponsor is? Go earn it. Goddamn.
So, got a couple more.
Headblade has sponsored me. I really appreciate them. Straight Razors has sponsored me. Really appreciate them.
I started using Headblade, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I love them. Also, I would follow me at Right Fight 170. That's Right Fight 170 on Instagram and on Twitter, and Jason Righteous Norwood on my MMA page on Facebook. And I'd like to just, who I really want to thank. I want to thank every person. I try and say this as often as I can. I want to thank every person that's ever said thank you to your service to me in uniform. Anybody who's ever smiled at me. Anybody who's ever shook my hand. Those little things that people do for me over the course of the day change the direction of my day, and that changes the directions of my workouts, which changes my ability to fight better in the cage, which changes my ability to be a better father, which changes my ability to be a better friend. And so thank you all for that.
Well, Jason, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. And thank you for being part of Go Earn It.
Awesome, man.
That's it, guys. We are signing out. That's another edition of the Go Earn It podcast. Have a good one.